Recording.
Okay, great. Okay, so welcome everybody to the Design Advisory Panel meeting for March 23rd. And first order of business is to adopt our agenda, but I just wanted to make a note that there was a mistake in the agenda. Just noted that we have the approval of the minutes for the February 9th meeting. It should actually read March 9th meeting, just so everybody's aware. We did have the correct minutes, just the wrong date there. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda with just that one correction? Kevin? And seconder, Ken, all in favor? Okay, great. And so we'll just move on and have a look at those minutes. Everybody have a chance to look over the minutes? And any issues to bring up? Okay, not seeing any. Kind of a motion to approve the minutes as presented. And Ken, seconded by Angela. All in favor? Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so we can move on. We've got two presentations this evening. So the first one we'll let City Planner Caleb Horn will introduce. So you can go ahead, Caleb.
Actually, it'll be George on this one.
Sorry, it's George. I'm sorry. Yeah. I knew you were up somewhere. My apologies, George.
First of all, I see some familiar faces and names from past lives.
George Fuji, hello.
How you doing?
I'm so good. Nice to see you. I was like, George Fuji. I guess everybody goes to Nanaimo when they're done with Surrey.
That's right.
Got it.
Anyways, though.
Nice to see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a proposed facelift of the Thrifty Food Store at the Longwood Shopping Center located at 5801 Turner Road. The layout of the shopping center, including the layout and design of the shopping center, including a Thrifty Food Store, was approved under a previous development permit in 1997. The current proposal is to undertake exterior renovation to the existing store and no changes to floor area or footprint. And the intention is to bring it up to the current branding for the Thrifty Foods chain of stores. And I think with that, I'll turn it over to the design team to present to the panel.
Great, thanks, George. You can go ahead, Barry, and if you want to share your screen, you're welcome to do so.
Sure, I will do so. Okay, so. Okay, thank you very much for hearing us today regarding the Longwood Thrifty Foods facelift. I'm just going to try to just do a slight adjustment here to the site plan. Okay, see, there we go. Okay, so George mentioned briefly the nature of the project. So if you are able to see my screen, then you can see the area of work outlined where my cursor is. So this is Longwood, which I remember fondly seeing it get constructed many years ago while we were doing some other projects in Nanaimo, mostly up at Rutherford and at Woodgrove. So this project was, as I mentioned, sort of a late 90s project. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 11 buildings that were done at that time, including a food store. This is the Turner Road here on top, and North Island Highway abuts it to the west. I made some additional context photos that I wanted to just I thought would be useful. So this is a view of the shopping center. So you're looking here at the existing food store on the right. This is one of the CRU buildings, and the buildings do have a very sort of typical architectural expression. That was done at the time, which is this sort of combination of arched entranceways, little peaked roof elements with some sort of hip roofs that come off it. and that was sort of integrated into all of the buildings at the time. This is a view of the two of the buildings that actually front onto Turner. So this is looking from the parking lot back towards Turner Road. So the building on the left, building on the right. This is looking at the shopping center from Turner Road. So this is from the street looking through. So you can see the food store kind of sits back here. There are these other buildings that are fronting the street. This is the food store that you can see it from the parking lot, just as though you're right adjacent to North Island Highway. So if you were on North Island Highway and you just moved yourself just to the edge of the parking lot, this is what you would see. So, you know, this building is by far the largest of the buildings. It's very much the anchor for this shopping center. And as you can see, you know, it's essentially a decorated, for lack of a better term, it's a you know, they're all decorated boxes. That many retail buildings fall into that category. But you know, so it's got large areas of flat roof, and then the feature area at the front, which has this decorative entrance element that at that time was designed to look similar to the other buildings. And if you go back to Island Highway, so this is back, now you're back onto North Island Highway. So you're looking from there up to the site. So you can see on the left-hand side, one of the original building design. You can see the food store in the background. And then beyond that, you can see the other small retail building. So I thought it was important to look at this because, you know, I think part of the conversation that we're going to have as we talk about this is how important is it, and how important is this you know, the specifics of this existing context, or this 1998 shopping center design. How critical is that to this project going forward? You know, how much does it really matter in terms of whether or not this 2021 building, you know, how close does it need to be to that, to how important is that to that? And so that's kind of a central commentary, I think, and it speaks partly to what's come out of the planning comments already. So back to the proposal. So here's the site plan. So this shows the array of buildings on the site, and then we have this food store, which is down here. But this is the before and after. So below is the current, the way it looks today. So we have the existing building, again characterized by this slope roof form, which is essentially very much a decorative element applied to what is effectively a standard sort of food store box. Above it is the proposal. So, you know, we are proposing to effectively change the architecture so that we are more current in terms of the retail design in the 2023. I think I might have said 2021, 2023. So more modern vernacular, or pardon me, more modern expression than what we have down here. WA has been involved in many Thrifty Foods renovations on the island, and quite a few in Victoria. And this is a look that is fairly common to many of those stores. Really, the effort that is the main effort is on the front of the building, and we're proposing to leave the balance of the building mostly unchanged, other than finishes. So no changes other than paint are proposed to the other areas. So these are the renderings. So yeah, basically we have this central feature with a large overhanging roof with expressed with these two dramatic columns, and we have an additional. One of the things about this store is that the way you don't actually come in underneath here, you actually come in over here through the side. So we have a bit of a sign element here that we're constructing as part of this facade to sort of take the main banner, and then secondary signage over the front entrance. Again, yes, this is a modern expression that we recognize doesn't carry the architectural elements that were done back in 97, 98. I think that that's arguably deliberate at this stage. I mean, it's quite common for food stores, which are the anchors to these sites, to have their own somewhat distinct architectural expression. I think in this case, it is always a challenge when you're dealing with a somewhat, a specific architectural vernacular that was designed back in, 30 plus years ago, and you're trying to implement a contemporary retail facade on that. But I think it's important for everyone to acknowledge, and we certainly are trying to acknowledge in this design, that retail has evolved, and the client expectations and the customer expectations and the corporate or culture of Sobeys and Thrifty Foods also is looking for a different type of expression than what was done back in 98. Balance the building. So really, we're just pulling it together with paint to tie the look together. And then just in terms of the main details, you can see here this section shows basically how the main entrance works with the canopy, the cantilevered, or not cantilevered, it's not cantilevered, but the angled roof structure, and then the freestanding or the column that is designed to support that. Just in terms of the color palette, it's a mixed palette, but designed to complement the overall buildings on the site, but also to give some distinct expression to the food store, which, as I say, is the anchor for this. And this building has not really had hasn't really had any work or refresh done to it since it was originally built. So yeah, I mean, I think that this is an important project for this site. It's very important for the Thrifty Foods banner to have a contemporary look that ties in with their current design vocabulary. We acknowledge that it doesn't necessarily have it clearly doesn't try to mimic the 1998 design, but I would argue that in 2021 we shouldn't be doing that anyways. So we hope we can. We're certainly happy to answer questions about this proposed design. There are some minor landscape comments that I think Ben from PMG, I don't know if you'd like to just speak to what we're discussing from the landscape perspective.
Sure, thanks, Barry. I mean, the majority of the landscape around the site, as was noted in our report, we visited the site in February. It's not the ideal time to fully evaluate landscape, but from what we could tell, and from the reference photos that Barry had shown earlier, the majority of the landscape around this building is, mature, established, seems to be doing well. There are, you can see on this key plan here that we've identified, certain trees that from what we could tell, may have fallen victim to some over pruning. We could make probably a better assessment in a couple of months here, or in a month or so during the growing season. And as well, again, based on the original plans, we had identified about 4 trees that were missing or removed since then. So I think the comments. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the development permit contemplates renewing some of the landscape that's suffered over time. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think that's really all we have for our presentation, and I know we're only supposed to be 15 minutes, so I think we can leave it at that and turn back to the chair for questions or whatever you'd like. Thanks.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Yeah, if you can stop sharing your screen then.
Sure.
Okay. First of all, just before we go ahead with our committee and that, I just wanted to see if there's anybody has any questions for the city staff about this project. Nobody does. Okay. I just have one general question before we go ahead. I didn't see any mention in there or in your presentation or in your written presentation that there's going to be an overall renovation of this mall. Is it just your store?
I believe it's just the food store.
Okay, and then the owners of the mall
That's
have no
correct.
issue with this? Like, it doesn't sort of confuses me a little bit that usually these are done. There's kind of a overall scheme there. So
there's not.
okay.
This is the obviously we wouldn't be here today if the owners had not approved this design.
No, I realize that.
But there's no expectation to do it overall.
Okay.
We're-
All right.
That's This is just Sobeys Thrifty Foods renovation, and the landlords obviously have signed off on it.
Okay, great. Okay, just to clarify that. Okay, Jason, would you like to make some comments on this one?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually don't have an issue with the change in aesthetic to a more contemporary form and character. I agree. Time changes and so do styles and corporate standards, frankly. So, and if the fact that it's also located along the highway and it's not embedded in a neighborhood also makes me feel more comfortable with the idea of kind of changing it. From an entire development like a standpoint, I think the revision actually aids the wayfinding on the site and makes it more clear where to find it. From a building perspective, having what I'll call the lantern not being the main entrance may be a little confusing, but the way that, once everybody learns how their particular store works, I don't think it's really going to cause much confusion. But the only question I had, and I looked on the elevations and it called out the lantern, that the main piece is called out as spandrel glass. So I'm guessing it won't be lit up and putting light into the surrounding neighborhood. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. I don't think it's intended to be clear glass. I don't think it's intended to be a lit glass box. I think it's intended to be spandrel glass with the signage on top of it.
Okay, that would be my biggest concern, is if it the potential for light pollution to the surrounding neighborhood if that was lit up. But
No.
The fact that it is spandrel, I think, satisfies that. So I actually don't really have any particular issues with it, and I think those are all my comments. So thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation.
Thanks. Ken?
Yeah, I don't have any, Madam Chair, I don't have any particular issues with the design. You did mention that the signage was going to be over the main entrance, or indicate that that's the main entrance, but as a user of that store, I find that the main entrance is on the left side, not the right side of the building.
Oh, I'm sorry if I confused things.
And so it might confuse people actually to see the sign on that side rather than on the left side, if that's the intent of putting the sign there. Unless the intent of the sign is to show people along North Island Highway that this is a Thrifty stores on that location. And if that was the intent, then the sign should be on the side of the building, because that's the view that is seen from North Island Highway, and the signage would not be seen at all, even from Turner Road, because of the hill that you're down in a dip there from Turner Road, and you wouldn't see that signage at all. So that was my only comment about this project.
Barry, maybe I can speak to that.
Sure, Creesa, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. So with the renovation, the intent is to move this store into a more prototypical flow. So that will actually become the main entrance of the store, with the flow going right into produce and then continuing around the perimeter shop. So that is, we wanted to renovate this without having to take away from that. Like, we know that main portal has been there and doesn't delineate the entrance right now, and we wanted to bring to be able to renovate it without having to tear all that structure down.
Mhm.
In addition to that, we wanted to show the clients where that main entrance and is going to be revised to, and so that's the intent of doing it like that. We have a very similar setup at another store lower down in closer to Victoria at Broadmead, where we have that sign separate from the large kind of portal.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Angela?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, everybody, for your presentation. Yeah, I like the contemporary style. I was a little bit concerned, too, with just the fact that whatever happens here may not translate into the future buildings. I don't know how that works in terms of the agreements with the city, if there's some kind of like building scheme style that needs to flow as the buildings renovate, but regardless, at some point somebody has to take the first step. So here it is, and I think it's a nice design. I did have a concern just with sort of like, I know that the flow has changed since COVID, so I knew that they were trying to create that as more of the entryway. But maybe for people new to town or just shopping or visiting, maybe a little entrance sign or something below the main Thrifty Food entrance sign could be beneficial. Aside from that, I think it's great. All the trees are going to be and vegetation replaced, and I think it's probably one of the nicer parking lots in the city. So I didn't have any other add-ons to that. So, oh, I did sort of have a question mark about amenity space. I know this is just a renovation, but I guess the question, was there any consideration for an additional amenity space through the renovation, or is there already something inside? Or maybe I'll ask somebody through the chair. Barry? Maybe it's Barry.
It is Barry. Was there a question? I'm sorry. In that context, I didn't hear.
Yeah, I was just
somehow,
curious if there was a contemplation to create or enhance any amenity space that might be there already. I don't know if
think so.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I don't have to know. Sorry.
It's all good. Just thought I would raise that point,
No problem.
and I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Angela. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks, Barry and Ben, for your presentation. This is our regular grocery store, so I'm very, very familiar with the building and the site. I like the form and character of what's being added on. Unfortunately, in my opinion, it looks like it's going to look like a renovation addition, especially when you take into context the stucco and the pitched roofs on the other three facades. That unfortunately, I think you've done a good job in adding the timber. I think that's going to work well with the Longwood brew pub, which is obviously a lot different with the hardy plank and timber that's used there. But I just think that I would have liked to have seen more around the other facades, but obviously that'd be a major undertaking. We've been to this grocery store many times. We always use the entry on the left side, and it's a shame, but the way you've, I guess, aligned in the facade, the new facade obviously is symmetrical on the front. And in listening to the rationale, I understand that you're trying to make the right-hand side entry to be the main entry, which I'm not sure if that'll ever happen for me. But I think that would be my only confusion, is that there's really nothing in a perfect situation. This new feature would be the entry to draw you in. And unfortunately, that's just not happening. So there's nothing I could really recommend unless you were going to consider moving the entry to that point, but then you'd have to change all the checkout lanes and everything to make it work to that. So I just don't see that happening. So I'm very fine with it. I like the materials and the opaque glass panels. Again, just like Jason said, I'm glad you're not backlighting it. I think they're going to provide an interesting texture as it is. And all I would say, Ben, is hopefully you can upgrade the landscape islands that are there, and obviously replace the trees, and even hopefully by the time you're going to be involved in this aspect of the project, Ben, that you would also consider pruning the trees properly and getting that arranged. I don't think I've ever been into, or at least very few malls where they prune the trees properly. They pretty much lop them off, all the branches down, and they turn into what we like to refer to as lollipop trees.
Yes.
And so hopefully you can bring somebody in that can prune them properly and get them to grow to create canopies. I know people don't like trees in parking lots sometimes because birds are on them and they create messes on vehicles, but hopefully you can do something with those trees to get them to create proper canopies. So I don't think you really need to comment on that, Ben, but I'm sure you agree that there's ways that can be done, and even to improve maybe, I'm not sure if there's areas you can add low shrubs and ground covers in these as well. So anything you can do to improve the landscape islands and prune the trees in that area would be something that I would recommend.
Yeah, we can definitely provide a more in-depth assessment here and work towards a better remediation plan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Ben. Very nice presentation, and thanks for that. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kevin. And Hillary.
Yeah, thank you. Looks good. Looks like a grocery store. As far as the spandrel glass, that's like a non-reflective opaque glass? I guess that would be my only main question about that, just so that we don't have birds flying into it and falling into people's shopping carts as they're coming out of the store.
Well, it's definitely opaque, 100%. So, and sometimes they have a bit of reflectivity to them, but I know what you're saying. Like if you create a reflective wall, it doesn't, then it could absolutely feel like something that a bird would not see properly. I suspect that Sobeys team would be fine the ones we've done before have not been highly reflective.
Cool.
So I think that's a good comment, though.
Yeah, that's really my only comment on this. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Great. And I'll just add my 2 bits worth here. First of all, I really understand why you want to do something with the facade here. I'd say this is one of the most discreet thrifty stores I know of. It's sort of hidden away. You can't see it from the highway. You come down into this sort of convoluted parking lot, and it's actually really hard to find the grocery store. The signage is very discreet. So I think, playing it up is great. And I do appreciate your attempt to kind of blend it in as much as possible there. And I think you're right. It's an older style building, very sort of neutral shades and so on. I think adding something there is quite good, and I have no problem with that. My only concern is really just the form and character. I have to echo some of the concerns here about the doorway and so on. I find the design quite awkward. you've got your main central part, which is actually the largest. So my eye goes right there, and I would think that would be the entrance. But then you've got this sort of funny little pharmacy sign, and then you have to go over, and you've got another set of textures. So you've got glass, shiny stuff, or colored stuff with that glass. Then you've got some textures, the linear elements. So you've got different elements happening, two different shapes. It's just, it really doesn't sort of fit together aesthetically for me. I'm not saying that it has to be centralized, but I just think it's sort of an awkward design. And I understand part of your problem, of course, is you're wanting to hide that peak of that building. So I don't know how else you'd fix that other than to say stretch that, the highest portion right across and do something like that and then have your entrance. But I would find the entrance really confusing too. I would head to the door that's under the largest section there, and yet you've got your thrifty sign over to the side. So I really find that design quite confusing. But that would be my comment. I'm not going to, I think it's a grocery store, and understand what you're trying to do. I think I'll still, recommend that you go ahead if that's what you want to do. But my suggestion would be almost look at that design a bit more and think of something. But anyway, that's my 2 bits. But thank you for your contribution there. So from our committee here, I'm not hearing any recommendations to add to this. So do we want to have a motion just to approve the presentation, the proposal as presented? And
Madam Chair, I think I would like to have something in there to make sure that the landscape islands are upgraded in addition to the trees being replaced and also being pruned, the existing trees being pruned properly.
Okay.
There?
So yeah, so one recommendation do you want to put that in a good place?
Yeah, I would recommend that the landscape islands be upgraded, including replacing the trees that have been removed, and look at proper pruning of the existing trees.
Okay. So can we have a motion to accept the proposal as presented with that one recommendation as explained by Kevin? And anybody want to make the motion? Ken, seconder? Kevin, all in favor? Great, well done. So thanks a lot, and all the best on your project.
Thank you so much.
Very much, everybody. Have a good
you.
evening. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Great.
Bye.
So we have a second presentation this evening, and this one's for property on McRobb, and this one Caleb will introduce. Our city planner, Caleb Horn, will introduce. Thanks. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, this application is development permit 1260. It is currently addressed off of McRobb Avenue at 6340 McRobb, but if anyone's looked at the map, of course, it doesn't actually directly abut McRobb. It actually is directly adjacent to Kalinda Street. So the proposal through development permit 1260 is phases 2 and 3 of a multifamily residential development. Phase 1 did come before design panel, I believe, back in 2020. So for phases 2 and 3, there are a combined total of 266 dwelling units proposed. The relevant design guideline here is the General Development Permit Area Design Guidelines. And through the DP application, no variances have been requested. So with that, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, and who's presenting this evening?
This is, my name is Reza Salehi,
Okay,
Salehi Architect.
good. And
I'm sorry?
you can go ahead and share your screen whenever you're ready.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that Pat Campbell, landscape architect, Patrick Ryan, civil engineer, and Scott Mack from Townside Planning are also connected. Okay, that's I need to share. You have to allow me to share the drawings.
You should be
Yep, you should be able to hit the green button at the bottom to share screen.
I don't see the green button here.
You go in
full screen, full size. There's a green button in the middle at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I see it now. Okay. This is not open.
There, we can see your screen at the moment. If you can open, yeah, just need to open
Okay.
the right file.
Okay. Yeah, that's the right file. Okay. The proposed project is a three-phase project. As Kelly mentioned, that phase one is already approved, and this proposal is for phase 2 and 3, is 2 6-story buildings.
Reza, we're just looking at your file, like your file explorer screen right now.
Oh, you don't see the drawings?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you had the pictures.
You want me to try and?
You don't have the pictures now?
There we go.
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So phase 1 is already approved, and this proposal is for phase 2 and 3, which are these 2 6-story buildings on the west side of the property. Phase 1 is this 6-story building at the east side of the property. A covenant registered on the property title allows 2 20-story towers for the phase 2 and 3. But my client has decided to develop the 2 proposed 6-story residential buildings to be consistent with the existing neighborhood developments. Site proposed project is located within Wood Grove Secondary Urban Center on the south side of Sentinel Drive. The Sentinel Drive, the project is at the south side. Surrounding the sites are a townhouse project to the north, which is this one, 15-unit residential building at 6330 Macro Avenue across the Sentinel Drive, a 48-unit residential building to the northeast, a 108-unit residential building to the east, and Nanaimo Senior Village to the southeast, which is not in this picture. It is in this area at the southeast, and Georgia View Village Plaza to the west, which is this one. Site is currently designated as R9, high density residential, high rise in OCP with a base FAR of 3.0. The total site area, including phase 1, is 12,788 square meter, and the total buildable area of phase 2 and 3 is 19,974. That in combination with phase 1, the total FAR will be 2.21, which is less than the 3 base permitted FAR in R9. And on-site an on-site Port Couche has provided for the pickup and drop-off and fire truck staging that provides the access as well to the entry of the units. The vehicular access to the parkade is through Kalinde Street and through this secondary road which connects or provides access to the shopping center, and that goes in between the two buildings, East Building and West Building. The proposed project provides 200, sorry, I've got cold. 279 parking spaces on 2 levels of parkade, as per the requirement of the City of Nanaimo. Proposed parking spaces are including 50 visitor parkings and 20 accessible parking spaces. Visitor parking is located on P1 level and is secured with an overhead door. Resident parking is separated from the visitor parking with a secondary secure gate. Electrical room, mechanical room, communication room, and common garbage room are all located on P1 level. Phase 2 and 3 buildings, these 2 buildings, are located on the west portion of the site and are configured in L shape to take advantage of the irregular lot shape, while providing a large common open space in front of the building. Consideration has been done in locating the 2 buildings to minimize the impact on the neighboring developments. Proposed buildings are 6-story residential buildings, significantly lower than the 20-story high-rise buildings and more consistent with the existing neighborhood character. Prominent 2-story high entrances of the 2 buildings of the phase 2 and 3, this is East Building and this is the West Building, and these are the 2-story entrances to the building, are facing Port Couche, which provides access from the Sentinel Drive. Phase 1 is also connected to the phase 2 and 3 via an on-site walkway for access to indoor and outdoor common area facilities. The indoor amenities of the residents are located on the first floor of the West Building, across the amenity entrance lobby, and includes a lounge, kitchen, bar, meeting room, and exercise room. Outdoor amenities includes an outdoor pool, jacuzzi, sitting area, and community garden at the west side of the West Building. There is also an outdoor amenity including children play area at the north side of the East Building and sitting area at the north side of the East Building and between the 2 buildings. Phase 1 building is consisting of 122 units and phase 2, and phase 3 building is consisting of 144 units, total of 266 units, and 14 units equal to 5% of these units are adaptable units. Ground floor units take advantage of the outdoor patios which are connected to on-site pedestrian network that connects the two buildings and provide connection to Georgia Village Plaza. So this is all of the walkways that connects the two buildings and the connection to Georgia Plaza. All typical floor units have a large balconies of their living room, and the 6th floor units take advantage of the large roof deck with a view. Setback of the 6th floor at all sides of the buildings provides reduced scale to the facade and the building as a whole. Architectural frames and the finishing material and colors that wrap around the corner of the buildings maintain a general design language throughout the building on all sides. The exterior material, finishing material that provides a significant role in the modern character of the building, provide maximum durability and requires minimum maintenance, and are including Eco Ridge cultured stone, painted hard panel with aluminum trim, painted 6-inch hardy siding, vision and spandrel glass, vinyl window, black outside and white inside, a stained wood soffit, and aluminum guardrail with clear glazing. In terms of CPTD, the access to first of all the windows, large windows provide proper surveillance around the buildings, and the parquet access, all of the overhead doors, including visitor parking and residence parking, will be secured with camera. All main entries to the buildings, elevator lobby, and the amenity area, as well as bicycle storages, will be secured with security camera. The proposed development will be designed and constructed to meet step 2 of the BC Building Code as per the City of Nanaimo requirement. Project materials and products will be selected based on their functionality, durability, and low environmental footprint and VOC. A high-performance building envelope, including insulation, glazing, along with comprehensive ventilation system, providing outdoor air into the homes, will be targeted to improve indoor air quality. Sustainable features such as stormwater management measures will be provided to maintain groundwater flows and reduce drainage to the municipal system. And finally, high efficiency appliances and fixtures will be selected. Thank you.
Reza, could you continue through the slides until you get to the color overall landscape plan?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Can you continue?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Until you get to the
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
color?
I just need to know which one should I show.
The first overall color.
I'll go through the.
So these drawings are just showing the details in different phases. That's it. Yeah, so this is the overall landscape plan, which doesn't show in a lot of detail, but just to go over the major elements of the plan. Garbage and recycling is on the south in mid of phase 2. And the walkway system goes around, and I think we need to look at the grades between it and the garbage and recycling to see if we can go direct. This shows if we're going up north on the west side, the access to the underground parking has a trellis, a metal trellis over that access point with vines over it. So that portion is really much greener than it looks in the rendering. The walkway system shows in front of or on the south or the north side of building phase 2 and circling phase 3. The children's play area is in the corner of the phase 2 building. It has some benches. It has this patch of lawn, which apparently is a bit controversial and might be open for discussion, is the only lawn really in the project, located in that drop-off and fire access route. Otherwise, it's all treed and planted with a mix of shrubs according to its aspect. The entrance to building 3 is off that drop-off area. So each patio has a gate, and well, it has steps to get up into it. The building is a little raised off that that pathway. The only existing trees that are on the site are located to the northwest. Oops. Sorry. To the northwest, where the stormwater tank is located under the garden plot areas. So the garden plot area is totally fenced. It has a storage shed, a work table, composter, and an 8-foot high fence around that area to keep the deer out. We've added a couple of benches since this drawing was rendered as well, so that gardeners can take a rest. The walkway continues around. That patio has a shade structure over it where there's the tables. There's a barbecue located in that area as well, and then the pool and hot tub. All that area is planted with drought tolerant, a mix of flowering shrubs. If you can go one more, you can look at the detail of phase 2, adjacent to phase 1 there. The play area has benches for parents or grandparents to overlook the play area. There's also a social area, like a covered area with some couches and a fire table located between the two buildings, just north of the parkade. So the project is rich in amenities, and although we have this bike rack showing, I was looking at our drawings, and it's not actually showing our guest parking spaces that, in addition to what Reza has for residents, there's 4, there's 4 bike racks at each of the main entrances to the building. There's 2 at the play area and 2 at the pool area, and 2 at the garden plots as well. And I'll just leave it there.
Okay, is that it for your presentation, Reza?
Pat, are you done?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
So that's it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You can stop sharing your screen then. And we'll have the panel give their comments. So to panel members, are there any questions of the city staff? No. Okay. Maybe Angela, you'd like to start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I believe this is a wonderful project, wonderful infill project that's needed, and very attractive contemporary style, form and character that I do think, like you say, fits the form and the character of the area a little better in terms of the scale. Has a nice variety of buildings, so will add well to the existing neighborhood. I don't actually have a lot of my own comments that don't sort of echo what staff have said. I do feel like wherever possible that more connectedness with the lower units to the street would be beneficial in any of these types of developments. If you can put some sort of connection between the Colinda and Centennial, obviously the more connectedness that can happen, the better. I don't mind the grass area at the front. I think that's actually a nice feature for the residents if people are dropping off or picking up. Teenagers, kids with parents can hang out and wait in the grassy area versus maybe standing underneath and crowding it underneath the the entryway on nice days. I think it would be a nice feature. I did have a question about the pool. Is the pool heated? Like, is it going to be used year round, or is it just sort of seasonal?
No, at this point, they have not decided to have it heated. It's just a regular pool.
Okay.
But the jacuzzi for sure is heated, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's an amazing amenity. Like, this project's so well thought out, and it's an awesome building to live in with all these nice amenities. And I think it'd be a shame to not be able to use the pool year round. But I do appreciate an outside pool too, because that's really fun in the summer.
Yeah,
so
it can be used for something.
Yeah. So to enclose it, that's a whole nother idea. But I think it's a great amenity, whether it's open or closed. And I believe that was all of the comments I had. I also, a lighting plan, if you haven't done one already, I know it's not necessarily part of the design panel presentation, but obviously this type of project would, I think, do very well to have a nice lighting plan associated with it to lead into the safety aspect of it as well. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think it's a great addition to the area. I walk past it all the time and work just down the street. So
thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Angela, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks for your presentation. I would echo Angela's comment that it's a very nice development, something that's definitely needed in this area. I'm very familiar with it too. I drive by along Colinda quite a bit, and that seems to be probably the most important visual link for the buildings that people will notice the most. I like how you've cited the buildings. I think by the shape of the footprints, you're able to create these wonderful little pockets that Pat's been able to use her wizardry to create interesting amenity spaces and landscaped areas. So some of the questions I have concern the garbage location. You haven't provided details for it. I don't think that's the best location because it is, from a vehicle standpoint, going to be the most noticeable location that it could be, and whether or not you've considered other locations for that. If Riza wants to, or Pat I want to comment on that.
Okay. I believe you are referring to the garbage staging location, correct?
Yeah, the garbage on Kalinda, yes.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I thought, first of all, one of the comments that we received from the planning was to connect the lower units on that side to Kalinda Street. So that means that if we want to do that, then this garbage and the staging area and the loading bay cannot be there because we have to remove them. So considering the roads around the project, the only other one that we may be able to use is closer to the private road in between, the road that connects the north and south side of the project. Otherwise, the rest of the area, the north side is not a good side to do that. It's not accessible, and they didn't want us to somehow create traffic on the north side. So that's why we provided that Port Couche to bring all of the traffic in, to not to create congestion on that road.
Yeah, so, and you didn't want to consider it underground in the parking?
Oh, underground is fine, but if it's okay, we can. We have the garbage room underground, garbage and recycling room underground. I can have it underground as well, no doubt about it. For sure,
okay.
We can do that.
The reason I'm saying that is if you are going to put any sort of garbage or recycling in the area that you've indicated there right off of Kalinda, in my opinion, to create a proper situation in that area, you're going to need a structure there, like a roof structure, walls, and it obviously would be encroaching into your front yard setback. You would probably require a variance. And I think unless you put a really, really nice structure there, I think you might have to look at alternatives. I'll see what other people's opinions on it are, but that's just my opinion. I think if you just had something with a fence or a block wall around it or something, I just don't think it's going to achieve its purpose, and whether or not you need to move it just completely below in the underground parking, or consider a structure there that may require variance to properly relate to the site, and obviously shield the garbage cans and whatnot. Alongside that, you have a loading bay right beside it, but beside the garbage. What is that for? I know it says loading bay, but I just can't see how that location would program for somebody to use it. Somebody moving in isn't going to park there and then wheel everything around to entranceways around the building. There
is a staircase that leads to that area at the south side of the building, so they can go from there. But for the phase one, they wanted us to provide the phase one with a loading bay. So that's why
the loading bay on Kalinda, that one on Kalinda there.
The loading
right
bay
beside the garbage.
Phase one is not for the phase one is not on Kalinda. Is off the private road in between the Kalinda and the north side.
Yeah, but you're showing a loading bay right beside the garbage, adjoining the garbage.
You're talking about phase two and three.
Phase two.
Yes.
Is that a loading bay for the garbage truck, or is it?
No. It's a loading bay for people moving in, moving out.
Yeah. So how do you get from there to a main entranceway? You have to go all the way around the sidewalk around to get to it. There's no entranceway close to that, to the main, like a main lobby entrance.
Not to the main lobby, but there is a direct access from there through the exit stair, goes to the building, goes to the east building.
To the phase two building.
Phase two building, yes.
Yeah, and where is that? Where is that entrance? I don't see it. All I see is units along the south side. You'd have to, from that loading bay, there's no connection other than coming out to the street sidewalk and heading east and going around to the Sentinel and coming around to the front of the building. Am I missing something, Pat?
Oh, I see. I think you are saying that the walkway is not shown from the loading bay.
Yeah, I just think that loading bay location is redundant. I think most people are probably going to park, if they're moving furniture in or moving anything major, they're going to come into the main Port Cochère there and park there near the two entranceways, the main two entries to the buildings.
Yeah, that could be possible as well. But we were thinking that maybe when a truck comes over there and the truck wants to stop there for a couple of hours or maybe more than that, that may block even the Port Cochère. But that Port Cochère can allow for some portion of Port Cochère can be allowed for this move in or move out.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, whether or not you need not only to have the garbage there in that location, but also that loading bay really isn't needed in that location, and a lot more could be done with that. For example, staff mentioned a dog run. That could be a good area for a dog run or a dog park in that area. There could be a lot of opportunities there. I'll just leave it at that and see if anybody else has any interest in that comment. But aside from that, citing, there's an existing fire hydrant on Sentinel, and it shows up on it's somewhere. I'm assuming it's somewhere around your landscape island by the drive around area. Are you familiar with that? The fire hydrant?
There is a fire hydrant there, yeah.
Okay, and is it right in front of the, because it looks like it could be near the drive aisle, that drive around area.
There's one of the plans that Reza showed. It's kind of right in the, I wouldn't say it's in the middle, but it's kind of in the middle of the island, but on the Sentinel frontage.
Yeah, it's on the Sentinel frontage, but is it going to be right near that lawn area? Obviously, you're not going to have to relocate it, right?
It's basically, I guess if you were to look at kind of the area between the two axes off of in Sentinel, it's kind of in the middle of those two, but in the lawn area.
Oh, it's in the lawn. Okay. I just want to make sure that. There's, I guess I'm curious with this project. There's 3 phases. What's the developer's intention? Are they going to do phase 1 first and then phase 2 and 3 at the same time? Obviously, there's underground parking that needs to be formed. Just curious if the architect or if there's a developer here that can explain that, because some of the questions I have relate to how this all flows together.
The parkade will be done while phase 2 is going to be done, not waiting for phase 3. So 2 levels of parkade will be constructed along with phase 2.
Okay. So then when phase 3 gets done, the foundation, you'll just knock out from the underground parking, you just knock the opening through to get the underground parking to work for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a long sidewalk along the phase 3 building that heads south towards the drive aisle that meets up with Kalinda. And this is probably a question for Pat. But it appears that there's a kind of like a switchback ramp that goes down, but there appears to be steps as well in that. Pat, can you confirm that? Because obviously it would need to be accessible from Kalinda to go all the way through that long sidewalk of phase 3 building up to its entrance.
There are steps as well, but we could look at it being entirely ramped.
Yeah, that would need to be totally ramped to be able to, because it looks like from that drive aisle, if you just go, as you're passing the ramp that goes down to underground parking, you either can go up a switchback ramp or you can go up some steps. But then as you meet the level of the ramp, it looks like there's about 3 steps to continue going up or down. To take you along that long sidewalk to the main entry of the phase 3 building. So I'm hoping that you can resolve that so that can be totally accessible. Otherwise, anybody in the some of the people would have to go all the way around to get up down onto Kalinda.
I'm sure we can.
You see what I'm saying?
Totally accessible. We haven't done the detailed grading plan as yet. It's really schematic.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that you would make sure that sidewalk on the south side of Phase 3 building is accessible down to Kalinda.
I agree.
Okay. Okay. Form and character. The just some things that jumped out to me. I like the materials. I wouldn't mind seeing something a little bit more enhanced with the top floor. You've sort of create this really nice banding across between the top and the next floor down, and whether there's ways that you can enhance that element just to give it a little bit more punch. That's my opinion on that, whether or not, again, somebody else agrees with that. The two entries to the buildings for Phase 2 and 3, you provide this frame around the entranceway. Did you look at maybe using one of the other materials, like the wood or something on the frame to highlight the entries more?
Actually, as you know, the entry is a 2-story high entry.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought wood frame or any kind of like an arbor or something like that can be a little bit it may look a little bit, depending to the structure, but it may look a little bit flimsy going up 2-story high. But we can do something. I mean, another type of the wood structure in front of that at 1 floor height. But keep the same 2-story frame and have another one at 1 story.
Yeah, just something. If there's something you could use to highlight them, yeah, that could possibly help. There's none of the units that you provided are wheelchair accessible.
14 of them are.
14 of them are wheelchair accessible. Okay,
5% of them. 5% of 266 units, 40 units.
Okay,
are accessible.
Perfect. Good. That's perfect. I like to see that. Pat, there's an existing group of evergreen trees on the south corner. I'm assuming all those are being removed.
They are.
There are. Okay. I'm glad that you've included evergreen trees in your palette of your tree palette. You do have Serbian spruce and firs in there, which is good. So at least you're replacing with that. I guess Angela mentioned the lawn area in the front in that island. I would say I don't mind the lawn area as well. Maybe there's an opportunity to add some sort of feature, whether it's public art or something in that area, or something, maybe a boulder with the address or something. Just add something into that area. Even the name of the development or something. If you'd add something there, again, that's just my opinion, but I think we might be able to have the opportunity to do something in that area. But other than that, there's a lot of little things I commented on, but I think this is a very nice project. And I think there are just a few little things that I would like to have done differently, and that might just be me. So thank you very much. It's a very nice project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Hillary, would you like to comment?
Yes. I think it looks great. I do think if there are going to be pets allowed in the building, there does need to be some type of like pet amenity space where they can go out and do their business. The pool heating thing, I think that is a good comment and maybe something to consider. That would really like boost the value of having a pool on the property. And I'm assuming that the pool would be fenced. Also the children's play area, because it's so close to the visitor drop-off zone, I think it would need some type of fence to keep kids from getting carried away and running into that road space, because it's quite close there. Other than that, yeah, I agree with other comments that have been raised tonight.
Great, thanks, Hillary. And what are we done here? Oh, Jason?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Most of my comments have already been said, but I just want to say I appreciate the mix of the unit sizes, about how there's almost as many 2 and 3 bedroom as 1 bedroom, which I think is really great and kind of meeting the needs of the community. And I do like how you've introduced the stone base around the buildings to help you kind of differentiate it and kind of ground the massing of the building. I like that quite a lot. I also had a comment about the entrances, similar to Kevin's, around potentially adding a single story, almost like a canopy level trellis or arbor that could potentially match what you have over the driveway down into the parkade. I mean, a nice wayfinding to demarcate building entries. I also had a comment about the siding. I really like the massing, how you stepped back the upper levels. I saw the city, the staff had a comment about potentially a darker siding or material there. I think that could be really interesting. Even if you even extended the eaves of the roofline a little bit, so you had a bit of a reveal, it could feel like an additional band at the top. I've seen that used in other buildings where it can help give it striations and kind of help bring the overall feel and mass of the overall building down a little bit. I thought that was an interesting approach. I also had some concerns about the garbage and the move-in. I'm not sure that the garbage enclosure shown is actually large enough to stage all of the garbage that is shown on the P1 garbage plan. And I agree. I don't think anybody's going to be using that move-in pad. Everybody's going to be parking at the front and blocking the drop-off traffic. So I think that's probably just the reality of it. If there was a lay-by space that could be added to that, I think it would increase the functionality significantly. And then my other comment was I didn't see a fence around the pool, which I'm sure you'll add in, but just making it feel so that it wasn't the private amenity for that particular building, finding a way to make sure it feels integrated with the entire development and open for everybody. And those are my comments. So thank you for your presentation. And I love how you've cited the buildings to create, like someone said, a different pockets and experiences across the site. And so that's all. So thank you very much. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. And Ken. Turn your mic on, Ken.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I agree with everybody that the form and character of the building is very good, and I agree with that. The top level is just a white band, and I think I agree with that. It should be punched out a bit more, emphasized a bit more. It's the penthouse level, and probably we might have a higher ceiling. I don't know if you're planning that, but other than that, and I had some questions again about garbage. Based on a plan, if you're not building phase 3 till after phase 2, then all the garbage cans that you have on the parking level 1 is in phase 3, as I look at the plan. So what happens in phase 2 with the garbage if you don't have, are you taking some stalls in temporarily, or I had a question about that. And are you going to have a dumpster somewhere, or people have, you need at least 3 types of garbage: the recycling, the organics, and sort of the dumpster style garbage where people throw in large, big black garbage bags. If you're just having those bins, I mean, that's a lot of bins, and a couple of garbage bags will fill 1 bin. So I thought that this garbage staging area was where you would have dumpsters. Then if that was the case, then you would have to have an enclosure of some sort, because in this neighborhood, there are a lot of dumpster divers, and you'll be cleaning up a mess every morning. as people go into the garbage looking for recycling bottles and things like that. So I don't know. Can you answer that question just for me?
Sure. Garbage and recycling room is a common room for both phases, phase 2 and phase 3. And in fact, it's located mostly in phase 2, not phase 3. Okay. And if you look at the plan, the bins, the big bins are back to back in the middle, and the smaller bins are back to the wall. So when the person comes into the garbage room or recycling room, we can go either to the right or go to the left. The one to the right goes for the phase 2. The one to the left is going to go phase 3.
So phase 2 is going to be the building next to phase 1. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
East building is phase 2.
Okay.
West building
Okay. That's what. That's what I was. Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
But what about a dumpster? I mean, are you saying that the pickup of the garbage, they have to roll up all those bins up to one level, and you're expecting the garbage guys to do that? Like GFL or someone like that to come in and roll up all those bins?
Usually,
bins, and you have like 260 units. That's a large number of tenants.
Yeah.
Dumping garbage, and you don't have a compactor nor a dumpster of some sort, or bulk garbage. I think you're going to have a problem with garbage. So that's my question on garbage. The other question I had was, and I don't know if the city staff had told you that there's a path that starts at McGeer Field that goes behind the developments, and they requested the Upland Terrace, the rental unit, to put in a sidewalk for pedestrians so that they can cut through towards Centennial, and that path goes on to Costco. And I'm wondering how or whether it should be integrated into your design, because that's a fairly usable path. And if you look at the property now, you'll see a trail right through the middle of your property that you're developing, where people go from the McGeer Field, and all the people on that around Uplands in this area use that path. And the Uplands Terrace have put in a nice lighted path for those people, and I think it's going to be used more and more. And I noticed that because I live in the neighborhood. That's one question. And finally, I had one other question, and that was related to the covenant. The original covenant that got changed and your 20-story development got approved showed a setback of at least 17 meters on the north side. And if that is a registered setback, does that mean that you have to reapply and change the covenant and change your site plans? I mean, that's, and then go for public hearing again, because I think a lot of people would complain if, this comes up again because there was a big issue, I know, when it was a 20-story development, but maybe the low rise will help. And the 7.5 meter setback is for high density is R9 is the standard. In terms of landscaping, I just would like to have seen a section showing on the north side between this development and the townhouses, because I think the townhouse, the duplexes that are on the north side, which are on a little bit lower level, you may end up with a retaining wall, but there should have been a section done of that area, because that's a critical view, and you have these 6 stories apartment unit looking down on 2-story townhouses. And I think that how you screen that, and the people that have had the privacy of over the last 10 or 15 years facing an empty lot are going to be, I think, upset when they see a 6-story tower less than 50 feet away from them. I think that was it. Yeah, I had another question, but I've forgotten about what it was. But anyways, that was sort of my comments for now.
No. I don't know if Scott Mack is connected or not. Scott, are you there?
Don't see any Scott here.
Okay. The reason that I asked Scott to attend is that Scott Mack from site planning was hired by the owner to discuss this issue that it was just raised, and that was the changing from 20-story to 6-story, but reducing the setback from to 7.5 meter, and that was discussed already with in 2 days in a row. Scott had a public information meeting with one was exactly with the neighbors to the directly to the north, which is that townhouse that you are referring to, and the other one was with the whole neighborhood. And Scott, and in both of them, the representative of the city were attending in both of those two meetings, and Scott sent his report of those meetings to the owner, and I believe city have a report of those meetings, and basically the people were told that what is it, and the drawing showed them what was the shadow analysis of the 20th story on their buildings versus the shadow analysis of 6th story on those buildings. That the shadow analysis of the 6th story shows that is much less shadow than the 20th story shadow, or that the 20th story was further away, but it was 20th story high, 3 times higher than 6th story. So all of these have been discussed already with the neighbors and the owners of the neighboring development.
The one final comment I had was on the units facing Kalinda, which is a southwest direction. I know in Texada, the apartments facing the southwest, in the summers that we have been having the last 2 summers, they almost become unbearable unless they have air conditioning, small portable air con in their unit. And when you have, from your elevations, I assume that you have casement windows. It's almost impossible to put an air con unit that would fit into a casement window, or your exhaust pipe. So it has to be like a slider. So you might consider that, because they're going to have to put an air con on the southwest units, because there's just no ventilation in your sort of interior units that are facing one wall that have no cross ventilation opportunities. And it really does. I know that people on the hottest days, they could just have to get a hotel and go to an aircon hotel. Their units are unbearable. So you should consider that, I think, as part of your, because the summers are getting hotter. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Well, lots of little details there. I think they're all really good comments. This is a big project, but I think it's a great project. Really appreciate the amenities you've provided, the green space, putting the parking underground. We don't have a parking lot surrounding this. All those things are really, really great. And I think the committee's already given you some good, smaller, more detailed critiques that might help you on your way here to making this a really even better project. So really appreciate your presentation, and hope the project can go well. So that said, I think I need to talk to the committee a bit in terms of what we're going to recommend here in terms of our final decision. So I've got quite a few comments here. I'll just go through them. One of them was to consider pedestrian connections between the buildings and the shopping areas. Consider putting the garbage staging area in another location or underground. Consider other uses for the loading bay area. Make sure sidewalks on the south of phase 3 is accessible. Consider enhancing the band around the top floor. And I'm not sure, maybe that needs to be something about the top floor anyway. Consider a way to highlight or demarcate the building entries. Consider adding a pet area. Consider a lay-by place near the front entries for moving in and out. Consider wayfinding. Consider adding wayfinding to the pool area so that all parts of the development can find their way there. And I don't know where that was from. Consider. Okay. Oh, consider sliding windows. Consider using sliding windows on all units, or just on the south, all units, I guess. So that comes up with 10 recommendations. So I don't know if I can bunch some of those together, or if you guys want to take some of those out. Any comments from the committee on that? Kevin?
Yeah, the garbage one, I think that it should be worded in such a way that, because it's going to be done in phases, that the applicant analyze or reanalyze the garbage program for the buildings, for the projects, and consider eliminating or relocating the exterior garbage location on Colinda to a different location. And as part of that, also eliminating the loading bay beside it as well.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if anybody else, it wasn't in the recommendations, anybody else's comment about the landscape island on Sentinel by the drive around, whether or not everyone was fine with it with lawn and trees, or whether or not it would be a good location for a piece of public art.
I'm frankly fine with the lawn, just plain lawn. I think if you got that many people living in the building, a little bit of lawn area is great. It's close to the playground. Place you can have your toddler running around a little bit or something like that. I think a small amount of grass space is definitely welcome. And I don't know that it needs a rock or anything. I'm sure they have some signage somewhere to highlight the development. I don't know where, but
I would like the city staff to respond to the pedestrian way, because they've asked Uplands Terrace to put in a pedestrian way. So what was the purpose of that pedestrian way if it leads to nowhere?
Caleb, do you want to respond to that question?
Yes, so I think you're referring to the property at 6117 Uplands Drive.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a request of the cities to provide a pedestrian pathway there, protected by a statutory right-of-way. We have included that in our staff design comments here tonight with this application as well. It is to be discussed still with the applicant. I will note, however, here there is a bit more perhaps redundancy in the pedestrian network, because there is the opportunity to walk to Colinda from Sentinel along an existing sidewalk. But recognizing, as you noted, there is of course an existing trail across the site, more directly connecting to the shopping center to the west rather than maybe to Colinda itself. So it is a conversation that we will continue to have with the applicant. Absolutely.
And especially if they just phase 3 doesn't occur, about 10 years after phase 2, then that pathway is going to be around the building and not go down Sentinel to Colinda.
I just want to add too that there is a crosswalk proposed between phase 1 and phase 2 across that little narrow stretch of, I guess it's called Sentinel, but it's not quite part of Sentinel, which kind of connects those two bits of sidewalk that Caleb was just mentioning. So there, from the path, the 6117 path all the way to I guess Apple, you can walk on an existing sidewalk.
And, and especially if it's, if they're just phase 3 doesn't occur, about 10 years after phase 2, then that pathway is going to be around the building and not go down Sentinel to Colinda.
I
Okay. All right, so I go over these recommendations again then. So the first one was consider the pedestrian connections between the buildings and the shopping area. Do we want to just leave that in or just leave that to the city staff and the applicant to work on? Committee members?
Well,
Jason?
Yeah, I think we could leave that in. I think and just
I think you leave it
to
in.
reinforce it. Yeah.
All right. And then Kevin's suggesting consider reanalyzing the garbage programming for the buildings and consider eliminating the garbage enclosure on Colinda and eliminating the loading bay. Garbage enclosure and loading bay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to still have consider other uses for the loading bay area, such as a pet area? Do we want to add that?
Yeah, well, whether the pet area, the dog walking area is in that location, there will be an opportunity there for Pat to do something in that area, and whether or not it needs to be in that area, I think that area will be dealt with through landscape in that area. So
We'll just consider other uses for the loading bay area.
yes,
Leave it at that. Okay, and make sure sidewalk on the south of phase 3 is accessible. Leave that
yeah, accessible, yeah.
Okay, consider enhancing the band around the top floor. Now, is that, or should I say that in a bit different way? A couple of you people have made some comments on it. But you want to suggest a?
Yeah. I would say just review expression of top floor. I mean, I don't want to be prescriptive about how they do it, but just a second consideration around how to enhance the aesthetics of that particular feature.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we should tell them what to do specifically. I think being that they've offset it, they've begun the process. It's really a matter of how to make it more appealing or enticing. And I think Jason's right on that.
Yeah.
So review ways to enhance the aesthetics of the top floor.
Yep.
Okay. Consider a way to highlight or demarcate the building entries. Okay. Consider a pet area. We've already got that. I'll maybe leave that in as a separate item. Consider a lay-by area at the front entries for loading, moving in. Now, Jason, you mentioned that. Did you?
Yeah. I don't know if it needs to be a recommendation or not, but just I just do that because I was kind of in line with Kevin in that I wasn't convinced that that loading bay was going to be used excessively. So I don't necessarily know that necessarily needs to be a recommendation. If they're just re-examining that entire area of the site,
Right.
it'll flow.
We've drawn.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I agree. I have a feeling. I think it goes without question that roundabout area will be used for loading for the two buildings. It's a closest link to the entranceways to the elevators, and it's just going to happen. I don't think we need to spell it out for them, and I don't think we need to. I think there's enough room there to have a vehicle park there and a vehicle still drive around it.
Right. Okay. No, I did. Yeah. No, that sounds good. We've drawn attention to the issue, so that's good. Okay, and then consider wayfinding to the pool area from all phases of the project, and consider using sliding windows on all units.
Oh, it's just that one elevation.
On the one elevation, yeah. Well, I don't. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that's southwest.
Not
The
necessarily
southwest.
sliding window, but just how are they going to handle people that have portable aircon units on that side?
Consider how
it's a
air
problem.
conditioning units might be integrated.
Yeah.
Integrated, especially on the south side,
It's a clean, yeah, southwest.
on the southwest. Okay, so I come up with 10 recommendations still, and any others that I've missed there, Angela?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight Hillary Ismir's point of putting some kind of safety enclosure around the children's play area, and then of course the pool can't just be open, so some sort of enclosure like Jason had suggested that doesn't block it off completely from the street but integrates it as well as the the building itself.
Okay, so ensure the children's play area and pool are fenced.
Yeah, and the pool
Oh,
would
building
need to be
standards.
secured. It would
Yeah.
need to be secured and locked, because if it's not being used in the winter months, it could be a death sentence for a child to drop in there. So it'd have to have a card key or something to get into it, I'm sure. So,
I'm assuming building codes would actually require
That's a
it to
code
be on the
issue.
pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but the children's area, I think that's a good addition, some sort of little fence or hedge or something to keep kids from making that bolt out into the street. So that's 11 then, 11 recommendations that I've read out. Anything else? Okay, maybe we can have a motion to accept the development as presented with those 11 recommendations. And so we got Kevin making the, sorry, putting forward the motion, and Jason second, all in favor. Great, passed. Okay, great. Thanks for your presentation, everybody, and all the best on the project. Look forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So I
Thank
don't
you.
think we have any other further business this evening, so maybe we can have a motion to call during the meeting. Ken will motion, Kevin will second, and all in the